My product uses many of the conventions of real media products. As I researched a variety of magazines and music magazines, I discovered common techniques which I experimented with in my own piece. For example, masthead logos, contrasting fonts, quotes, etc. I learnt that the images are a very crucial aspect of the magazine, and the direct mode of address, through imagery and language, is a very important feature which should not be dismissed. The language I have used is typical for any other magazine. Persuasive terms, such as hottest new girl band, and large fonts, catch the attention of the reader in the same way a real music magazine would. My contents page is very similar to any other music magazine's contents page. It simplifies the browsing for the reader and organises the magazine. It's separated into numbers and clear different sections so it's easier for the reader to browse. I've used subheadings next to the medium shot and each title I've used the subheadings next to my medium shot and next to each title to persuade the reader to turn to that page. A common feature done in many magazines which I believe to be very effective. I believe I have developed the conventions of a real media product because there is a gap in the market at this current time for a magazine which appeals to all genres. I have mixed together the conventions of a music magazine with a celebrity gossip magazine, targeting that gap in the audience who want that little bit more than your regular music or celebrity or even fashion magazine. This challenges the conventions of real music magazines today because people with an interest in multiple music genres and mainstream genres like chart music instead of an actual niche genre simply cannot afford to buy separate magazines for each separate genre. My magazine links together their interests for a reasonable price with regular issues and a variety of features to keep that reader satisfied. My magazine would be distributed in a variety of retailers. The young audience would appreciate my magazine to be sold in places of their convenience, for example supermarkets, newsagents and convenience stores. The younger audience, who may not be able to travel far to purchase their copies, will have the added luxury of local newsagents stocking the magazine. This equals satisfaction for struggling local newsagents also. On my contents page, I advertise to the reader the magazine's website, which features information about subscriptions and deliveries so that the reader will not even need to leave the house, yet save money and possibly even gain a free gift. This is a typical technique used by many music magazines in order for them to keep a steady audience throughout the year. The audience for my media products would be late teenage and young adult audiences who have interest in music and lifestyles of musical artists. I attracted this audience using a variety of techniques including fashion-inspired imagery, persuasive language, modern layouts, value for money, interesting interviews that would appeal to a variety of audiences, features on a variety of different genres in order to target different audiences. I created a sophisticated and modern magazine that does not appear as though it is cheaply made. I want the reader to believe that they're getting good value for their money and are satisfied with every issue. The genre of music I've featured as my main article for the actual project that I've done is dance music, which is often aimed at a younger audience. The age of the artist used for my main headlining act of my magazine is a young artist, a young female. People may believe they can relate to the young artist and therefore it will attract more younger audiences. I have used eye-catching contrasts of colours on the cover, content and double-page spread. I used a very attractive female model to represent my headline interview. This will attract readers from young males who like the appearance of her to females who idolise her. I've learnt a lot about using Photoshop, such as editing photos and graphic features whilst creating this product, as well as learning a lot about the way in which magazine appealed to their audiences. Looking back at my preliminary task, I feel as though I developed a variety of skills, not only Photoshop skills, but media language, photography skills, and clearer understanding of the magazine and music industry. My magazine represents many social groups. It is not particularly aimed at upper class families any more than it is aimed at working class families. It is aimed at a young audience with an interest in a variety of music. It represents the UK Top 40, which is the only chart which is controlled by the British public alone. Therefore, it represents the British public's opinions, targeting a variety of young audiences, all linked together with a mutual interest in music. I looked into what publishers would actually be interested in publishing my magazines. and I was very drawn towards a company called Condé Nast, who are very common with fashion-based magazines such as Vogue and GQ. They seem to lack a fashion-based magazine which features on which has music magazine features for music fans. This would give them, if they got a magazine with fashion and music for both of them sort of fans linked together, it would make them very good competition for EMAP, who has both magazines in music magazines and in fashion magazines in the market. I'm very pleased with my finished magazine. I've achieved the intended result and have strongly developed my knowledge of the magazine industry as well as my Photoshop skills. However, there are a few points in which I can criticise, which I would like to improve on in future production of magazines. For example, I would like to experiment more with imagery, testing out different models, props and locations. I would like to improve more on the Photoshop skills I've recently acquired, and I would like to experiment with many more effects featured on Photoshop program.